mean, whoops.
Coming from the rainy Thursday on the avenue, but I heard you talking softly. I turned on the lights, the TV, and the radio. Still I can't escape the ghost of you. What is happening to it all? Crazy summer days. Where is the love that I recognize? But I won't try for yesterday. There's an ordinary road somehow and as I try to make my way to the ordinary road, I will learn to survive. Small coincidence once prompted you to say, pride will tear us both apart. When our pride's gone out the window, cross the rooftops, run away. Left me in the vacuum of my heart. What is happening to me now? Crazy summer day. Where is my friend when I need you most? But I won't fall for yesterday. There's an ordinary world. And as I try to make my way to the ordinary world, I will learn to survive.
Nothing like a bit of old school punk rock.
Small surprises. It's a never-ending game. Nothing is impossible. Let them leave your eyes.
If the unexpected brings a smile,
That's a big surprise. Surprise, surprise.
the unexpected hits you between the eyes. The unpredictable, that's the surprise you see. Surprise, surprise. When you found a love that's nice and sweet, that's a nice surprise. And when you don't know what's in store today, that might bring surprise. It's the greatest feeling in the world, nobody denies.
Surprise, surprise.
The unexpected hits you between the eyes. The unpredictable, that's the surprise you see. Surprise, surprise.
world is my expense. What cost of my desire? Jesus blessed me with his future. And I'm protected with fire. So raise your fist and march around. Just don't take what you need. I'm telling bury those committed and smother the rest in greed. Come with me until tomorrow. I'll drag you to your grave. I'm deep inside your children. I'ma show you in my name. It's my expense. It's scope of my desire. The party blessed me with its future. But I'm protected with fire. I am the leader, the Peter, the Santa, Maria, the Luce, the rapist, the real Torresina, the ages, the porridge, the priest of Hiroshima, the cost of my desire. Sleep now in the fire. Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone. I go my name, and it feels right. When you call my name, it's like a little breath.
Oh shit. Hit the wrong button there. Never mind. I don't think anyone noticed. Oh, there we go. 3, 2, 4.
I have rapped in a program I did, a Weird Weekends episode about rap.
Do you remember any of the rap?
My money don't jiggle, it folds. I like to see you wiggle, wiggle, for sure. It makes me want to dribble, dribble. You know, run it in my Fiat, you really have to see it.
6'2" in a compact,
No slack, but luckily the scenes go back. I've got an act to relax in my mind.
sipping some red wine.
Hot.
This caviar hard to digest. Money long like receipts from CVS. Me, I'm not stressed. The good sign, I guess. Got too much
Dim
stress,
that light
can't
a
be
bit.
depressed. Your friend in the dinner, now she DTS. But I stick with you, baby, like Weezy. We first met, I was broken. But now you make love to a real baller.
My money
Don't jiggle, jiggle, it folds. I like to see you wiggle, wiggle.
sure, it makes me want to dribble, dribble. You know,
Riding in my Fiat, oh,
you really have to see it.
6'2" in a compact.
No slack, I'm not gonna let the seats go back. I like to relax in my bed, sipping some red wine.
That's better. There we go. You can now. Let's turn that off now. I think I've violated enough copyrights for this to work. Hello. Do you remember me? Of course you do. Sure, some of you still do. I used to be. Some people didn't like me. Some people did. I was the best thing going in that day, and I will be again. It's been a while. It's actually been 2 months. 2 months have passed since I uploaded anything that wasn't a re-upload or a re-edit of an old thing. So there you go. It's been and so little has happened. Right. So we'll let some people go. And the World Cup's on. World Cup's on for fucking 3 weeks. Of course. And of course I would schedule. You should have figured this out. You should have seen that coming. New location, pretty much, yeah. I mean, you could put me. You could say that at any point in. Always assume I'm not where I used to be. I'll tell you how out of the way I sort of am here. If if I was to give you my address, which I'm obviously not going to, but if I did, it wouldn't show up. The road I'm on doesn't show up on Google Maps. And I think if and neither did the last place either. So I think, you know, I think I'm pretty safe from any kind of like, I'm pretty safe from anything really, you know. If it's no, if even fucking Google can't be bothered to find you, then you're pretty safe, aren't you? Yeah. There we go. Let's get that. That's a bit better. Right. Trying to get this light stuff on. Caravan living. Well, I mean, seeing as you're here, would you like me to give you a tour of the place? I'll give you a Swiss round. We'll do an MTV Cribs. Right? Shall I do that for you while we're waiting for other people to arrive? I will give you the grand tour. Are you ready? Pretty much it there. And just full disclosure, there's the bit I was standing behind. And that's it. There you go. That's the whole place. You've seen it all now. Don't really, there's not much more to it than that, really. It is what you see. Or is it? That could just be, this could be a screen. You know, this could be like an effect. But then would I do that? I would if I said I did, didn't I? I could do it, but I'm not. No. Well, now the EDL, it's not that the EDL supporters can't find me. They probably could, but if they wanted to, they could have done. But the thing is, they don't exist anymore. That's like sort of saying Beastman and Mumra are coming after you, you know, or Banana Man and, you know, Bulk and Super Ted are looking for you. Okay? They're looking like moderates. No, they're not. They're more mainstream, but they always were. We've covered that one. They're not moderates, though. Never be fooled by that. I've paid for worse. Well, I am paying for, you know, I have. Well, this is finally just, you know, well, this was good. I moved to this place about a month ago. If you follow me on Facebook or for social media, you would have seen this. But basically, you can't see this now. Let me just, that sort of hatch you have there. That's like a sort of place so that sunlight and air can escape, so air can get in and sunlight can get in if you wanted to. But the rain and the wind and the storm, in the last place was so bad it blew the hatch off. Like it blew it went flying off. It was rocking around. It was like trying to sleep on a canal boat on a fucking wave machine. And it then basically a fucking monsoon hit Sandwich, and it was just a stream of fucking water coming down through that hole all day. Right, it became quite comical after a while. The carpet was so. I thought I'm going to fucking flood the place. I'm going to die drowning in a caravan, and it got so bad. I turned into Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump when he's out on the shrimping boat. I was just there screaming at the sky, going, "You will not take this caravan down," and it didn't. I got this one. There you go. There's the backstory for that. But it's a good time. It was a convenient time to move out. You know, like when the roof has fucking gone missing. This one's got a roof, and that's a bit. And call me high maintenance or maybe a little bit particular. But for me, a roof is a fucking deal breaker. That's what I'm going to demand. All the places I live at have them now. Anyway, so yeah, I was working on. I might do this today. I don't know. But I was working on a sort of response video, sort of old school style play and pause sort of thing. I might just do it in this live stream. I've already recorded it, but I just haven't edited it together, which wouldn't have taken much. But I might just do it anyway. When I get a few more people, see what it is in half an hour, not half an hour, 30 minutes, and then we'll sort of go into a bit because I've been in the time I've been away, or I've not been uploading. I've actually been. Thinking through saying, right, I really need to get my shit together. I need to sort of start getting to sort of like a bit more focused. I need to stop. My channel content needs to not be completely, not be devoid of randomness or unpredictability, but it needs to have a little bit more in terms of quantity and a sort of guarantee amount of videos and stuff and regularity, which is what it's been missing. It's also been missing a whole lot of quality over the last 18 months, but that's been a consequence of the fact that I've technically been homeless for 18 months. And it's very difficult to put your energy and time and focus into anything that involve, when you've got that, fear and anxiety of, I might not even be here in a few days' time. I don't know whether I'm even going to fucking end up making it. You can't really do it. But now I'm in a scenario, I'm finally in a place where this is my gaff. This is my gaff, my rules, right? This little shit box, it's mine. It's not perfect, but it's mine. And now I know it's here. I can focus on my content and we can start bringing that back up. So, and he's back. Thanks for the tour, yeah. And yeah, you lot are a lot more chatty than this. Must be a consequence of me not being here for 2 months, because this is at least 14 comments in the last 16 minutes. I mean, this is almost like a MrBeast live stream at this point. I'm sure you've all heard the news. It's very, very sort of controversial. MrBeast overtook PewDiePie as the most subscribed YouTuber. I didn't even notice. I had to literally go on Google and look at the fucking news that's under the search term YouTuber, which I have. And MrBeast, and fair play to him. But I feel that, quite frankly, if I'm being honest, I feel that I could have been as successful as him if I too had a shitload of my own money that I could pretend to give to my friends in return for them doing stupid challenges, which I then ultimately get back because they're on my payroll. It's brilliant when you think about it, and he manages to do it under the guise of altruism. Very clever. That's assuming the money is real, because obviously he could have just gone out and bought. He could have bought $100,000 in fake prop bills. I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm saying track record for YouTubers, and actually for there being no fucking, for what they're doing, presenting to be actually what it looks like. I don't know about you. Seems a little bit. Who would have guessed such numbers? Well, no one was guessing anything. But no one knew for the longest time. 2009 was when Fred became the first 1 million channel, and that was and then it was a few years after that, it was Ray William Johnson went to 4 million, and then people sort of just stopped counting and go, because it was just, the numbers just turned up, but no one knew what the numbers were supposed to be or going to be, because no one, we weren't doing anything like that at the time. Come on, focus, you bastard. I don't know whether it's not focusing or is it. Oh no, it's done. You did try to get all his friends. Yeah, he tried to get all his friends, which is good of him. To get all of his friends to invest the money that he's given them for doing challenges that he sets them, so that he gets views and more money. And then invest all that money that he fucking gave them in return for the money he's already got back, and and tortured them and and made them fucking humiliate themselves on in front of an audience. I'd love it. It's to be honest, I kind of he's probably ashamed that he's around in an era of YouTube where he has to be advertiser friendly, because I cannot fucking you wouldn't be, I don't think there's a website where you would legally be allowed to fucking broadcast the things I would make people do for money. I'll be like, right, mate, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go into this crowded train station, right, and announce, right, to everyone that you are a paedophile, right? That's it. Whilst, wearing nothing but cuffs, bow tie, cuffs, naked, socks, suspenders, cufflinks, stark bollock naked. You're a paedophile, right, with a lubed up fist and a hammer. If you do that, I will give you $10 million. Right? You might not make it out alive to spend it, but it'll be fun trying. But crypto. I just love the fact that CoffeeZilla got to a point where he could literally write a fucking script for a video about a cryptocurrency, and it would inevitably happen. All you have to do every time the inevitable happens with a cryptocurrency, all you do is put the word of the crypto, because it's the same thing every time. these geezers get together, create a cryptocurrency. They pay some big influencers to pimp it out when it goes live. Their fans buy it. It shoots the price up. They sell it. They fucking run away. It's happened. How many times has that happened? You know, how many times has that fucking gone? How many people have been fucked? And this was a system. This was a system of currency that was designed and conceived following the 2008 and 2009 crash. You know, with the housing market in America. I mean, how many people have been fucked since then by this thing? You know, it's a great example of many examples we have of people thinking we need to change the system and just coming up with something that's somehow worse. You know. I do a true crime. I don't do true crime. I like the true crime. The true crime gets a lot of fucking shit, and a lot of people talk a lot of bollocks about true crime shows, or even like TV shows that are based on true crime events, right? But it's just, you know, to me, it's just people, because the amount of content feels a bit saturated. People overanalyze it, and people like to fucking, you know, it's like if true crime content had the level of had any sort of severe negative influence on the behavior or the motivations of anybody who listened to it, we would not be making a fucking TV show about Jeffrey Dahmer in 2022. Right? Jeffrey, you know, we wouldn't be doing it, right? It's always the same geezers. It's Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, it's Jeffrey Dahmer, it's Dennis Nielsen, right? It's the same motherfuckers every time. Because there's, you know, and it's not that there ain't new people you could do it with, but it's not the, you know, and people just talk a load of shite about it. It's like, oh, we're glamorous. There's nothing glamorous about any true crime documentary or true crime TV show. Nothing about those. I've never watched I've watched The Wolf on Wall Street, and I watched Wolf on Wall Street and thought, yeah, to be fair, being a stockbroker looks like a right fucking laugh. Right? That's a glamorization to an extent. I didn't watch the Jeffrey Dahmer one and go, man, he looks like it. Oh, fucking, I might give that a go. I might fucking put that on the back burner. Imagine doing that. Wouldn't that be hilarious? No, it looked fucking miserable. It looked like a really fucking horrible life the guy had to lead. You know, fortunately, he killed enough people for me to fucking avoid having to give sympathy to him. How do you do a series 2? How do you do? Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, you can do it from different perspectives. You can do it from... Yeah, I mean the Jeffrey Dahmer one. It's not the series 2 is the people who's made it. If you watch the show, in the final episode, because John Wayne Gacy was executed on the same night that Jeffrey Dahmer was baptized, that actually was something they did in the show, and it actually happened. And there was a scene there was a scene of him of John Wayne Gacy and that's going to be the next series, right? As I understand it. And then you get people talking nonsense about how all these people who are now saying Jeffrey Dahmer's sexy. No, they're not. They're talking about the actor playing Jeffrey Dahmer. And secondly, he's fucking dead, right? He's fucking. But did you not watch the show? If you'd watched the show, do you know what you'd see? The entire last 2 episodes are about people how he just received all this fucking, you know, all this fan mail, and he was being sent money, and he loved it. That's when he finally felt, you know, comfortable, because he was getting this. Ian Watkins went from the Lost Prophets, right, who is now well-known fucking coke fiend and child and baby rapist. 2 of the kids he fucking sexually assaulted, right? He did so with after convincing the mothers who were fans of his to let him do it. Right? And you're worried because someone's posting thirst comments over the geezer playing Jeffrey Dahmer on a fucking on a fictional TV show. It's just stupid. And here's a question I will ask: if a serial killer or a mass murderer happens to also be hot, is there anything wrong with just pointing that out? Yeah. Is there anything? Because in a lot of cases, the reason they got away with with what they did for so fucking long is because they were quite hot. That's how Ted Bundy did it, you know? That's how these fuckers work. So I don't think there's anything wrong with fucking thinking about that. Bonjour. Well, I mean, we've all done, Dennis Nilsson, obviously, he was our, after America thought we'll have a homosexual serial killer. We had Dennis Nilsson, right, from Scotland, right? Killed more people than Jeffrey. Just want to point that out there. Not that we're proud of that or nothing, but we are. We haven't got lots to carry on to. So, explain Fred and Rose West. I mean, explain them. I mean, they were fucking their own kids. I tell you what, when you get into the detail of Fred and Rose West, it's the first time that I tried listening to a podcast about Fred and Rose West. It was 3.5 hours long. It's one of only 2 occasions listening to true crime podcast that I had to turn it off halfway through because I just couldn't handle it anymore. Like, it was so fucking. It was just, I couldn't listen to it any fucking more. And I listened to the 5.5 hour long Paul Bernardo podcast, right? And then I tried again with the Fred and Rose West one with an audio book, and it just reaches a point where you're like, what was the other occasion? Oh god, the other occasion, there was a Fred and Rose West one. What was the other one? I'm trying to remember. It was Andre Chikatilo, I think it was. It might have been him. But yeah, it's just and you think, and I've been watching true crime stuff and reading books since I was in mid-20s, for God's sake. It's like, and and people always think you get desensitized to it. You don't. You will not get desensitized to it. Do you know why? Because you're not a psychopath, right? If you do, you'll just stop watching it or listening to it, and you'll go watch something else. It's that's like saying that. I mean, it's like saying if you watch pornography, you're going to be desensitized to sex. You're not. You're going to get into other stuff, but you're always going to have that there. It's not going to stop. You're not going to suddenly wake up one day and go, oh god, I can't be bothered getting horny. It's not fucking worth it. Columbine. I haven't read that one. There's so many going. I mean, I started off reading books because this was obviously pre-internet. This is when everyone had books, and they were words on paper, right? I had to read them all, right? But Charles Bronson's autobiography, like not the actor, obviously, but that child, his book is exhausting. He was on the move more than me, right? Every fucking 2 pages, he's getting sent to another prison, and he's getting sent to another one. Interesting thing about Charles Bronson, right? He's been in prison for virtually 50, 40 odd bloody years, right? For robbing a post office for like 18 quid. Right? That's the only crime he committed. He got sent to prison, and he kept doing things in prison that added years onto his sentence, and he's still in there. He's never left. Banrisky, that's a good. Yeah, the Human Monsters is a good one because the guy, particularly if you want the graphic detail, if you want the deep dive, it's really good. And it's but the Joseph Fritzl one's really good as well. But then I've got the Joseph Fritzl. I've got an audio book which I think is 8.5 hours long. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Bronson is he's just it's kind of it's hard to say really because it's hard to know whether Bronson is one of those cases of it didn't help, the prison system fed into it, but whether or not he wasn't that way inclined anyway. He was paroled for a week. It's an interesting story. This is one of the most disgusting fucking things in his book. And I can't really hold it against him personally because he was just he couldn't get a job and he was offered money. And he started, in that week he was out, he went and did dog fighting, which is where a person fights a dog. Right? He would be fighting a dog, right? And he was put in this pit against this fucking Rottweiler that was going for him, right? And this is how the only thing he could do to defend himself was he stuck, as the dog came at him, he got his fist and he sort of put it in the dog's mouth and he kept going. And he just forced his entire arm down this dog's throat till his hand was in the stomach. Then he grabbed the lining of the stomach and just ripped its fucking insides out. And you're just like, yeah, that'll do it, That's pretty fucking disgusting. And and he didn't even get arrested or in trouble for that, but he said he never did dogfighting again because he said that was one of the worst. He said when you think of all the things Charles Bronson's done, and this was one of the things he said, I cannot, I'll never forgive myself for getting involved in that, But I didn't see the film. Well, no, the film was a bit weird. I mean, the film wasn't really, it wasn't a realistic film, was it? I mean, it was very stylized and weird, and you couldn't. If you read the book, you really couldn't do a sort of, you'd have to cut so much out because there's so much fucking stuff. One of my favorite bits was in the book was when he was holding some geezer hostage, and on the steel doors on the front of the cell, he barricaded himself in, and there's the steel hatch where they put all their meals. He basically headbutted himself. He headbutted his head through that steel hatch. Like the steel bit was out. He smashed his head through. He got jammed. He looks up, and there's 6 guards surrounding him, all with fucking truncheons, and they fucking just sat and smashed his fucking head in for like half an hour. And you must have been sat there going, bugger. Oh well, here we go. I also remember Charles Bronson being in the news because about a week after 9/11, Charles Bronson converted to Islam. And it wasn't even a trolling or anything like that. It's just that he had been seeing this Muslim woman. He'd been dating her and he was planning on getting married. And he probably felt, well, this will help. And it's very rare that someone like Charles Bronson, starts doing, pussy is the great equalizer with all these, isn't it? I think the problem with that, you could argue that with the problem with Clockwork Orange. If you try and do anything that's like, it's not what's the word? It's not surreal, but it's not hyper real. If you try and do anything like that, it's always going to get compared to Clockwork Orange, because Clockwork Orange has the advantage of being like the first sort of well-known film to do something like that. So anytime you try and do anything, it's like every cartoon, every sort of comedic animation show that's centered around a family is about it's the Simpsons. The Simpsons weren't the first cartoon family, American cartoon sitcom family. They were just the one that fucking everyone became ubiquitous with it. So, Jesus loves Salvador Dali, which is why it just proves my point. Which proves that because one of the people he took hostage Charles Bronson took hostage was a guard, was an art teacher who worked at the prison who criticised his artwork, right? And I don't want to say this, I don't want to victim blame, but what is this guy mental? I mean, come on. How far do your principles in being honest about art go that deep that you're going to tell a man who at that point had the world record for the most one-armed push-ups, right, 1,000, and I'm not making this up, the world record for tossing midgets, right? Something like 27 meters or something like that. And you have the gall to walk into this guy's art room and say, well, what the fuck's this, child? Come on, I wouldn't stick this on my fridge. Do it again, you fucking prick. No, you would. Why did you do that? No. And the fact that he's a Salvador Dali fan just proves that the art teacher was right, because Salvador Dali is shit. And then we'll just end up there. I'm not taking questions. Don't at me. Oh, God. I think Dave, it wasn't Dave Cullen, that guy. What's his name? Computing something. He was that Irish ginger shitlord who fucking something to do with computing. I just remember the only time I remember seeing him was he posted an image on Twitter of him standing outside a public toilet, looking, and this toilet was one of these it's just a room with a door that you can lock, and anybody can use it, and it had the picture and the symbol for man, woman, child, mother, baby, and all that. And he was just standing there looking at it and took a selfie, and it was like, why? I'm like, yeah, they're the weirdos, aren't they, mate? Not the fact that they've made a toilet that anyone can shit in with one toilet and a locked door. Yeah, they're the weirdos, not you. The geezer standing outside a public toilet, taking a selfie, staring with this gaze forlorn look on your face, like the Western civilization is coming to an end. Yeah, you're not the fucking knobhead. You're not the fucking loony in this case. I'm just rejecting someone's artwork. How bad? Well, that's true. That's the way that's just men, really, more than anything. I mean, that's the way men can react sometimes, It's what you look at these serial killers, and some of them just had a relationship. And the women tend to look, when women have a bad relationship, they get fat. Right, that's probably about it. They get fat, maybe become a bit of a whore. Right, men will go, fuck it, I'm killing everyone in the world. That's it. That's all. That's it. No, that's it. I don't want to live in a world anymore, and I'm just gonna. No one else can either, right? But yeah, and of course, famously, he had a Jewish art teacher, and his mother, who was sick, had a Jewish doctor. Probably didn't help, I'm just saying, The one thing about Salvador Dali that is good. There's one good thing about Salvador Dali, and that is he created this concept, the concept of the magic checkbook. Because basically, he was so famous in Italy. What he would do at the peak of his fame, him and a load of his mates get on a big jolly out, right? They'd go to this big fancy fucking restaurant, order everything on the menu, brandy, wine, fucking most expensive drinks, and fucking banquets. They'd eat the fucking lot. And then at the end of the meal, they would give him the fucking bill, which was probably 85 quadrillion lira, right? He would write a check out. He would get a check, write it out, write the check out, turn the check round so it was blank, and then do a Salvador Dali original doodle, sign it, and then give the fucking geezer the check. And the owner of the restaurant would look at this and go, "Oh my God, this is brilliant. A Salvador Dali original. And then he goes and puts it in a frame and hangs it on the wall. And he puts it there and goes, "Oh, the Salvador Dali eats in this restaurant," thus never cashing the check. So Salvador Dali just basically ate out on the best of everything, and his mates did, for fucking decades, and never got charged a penny and never did anything technically wrong. He just gave people checks that he knew they weren't going to cash. And that's quite fun. That's all, it was almost like the fucking, and that's still better than an NFT, One of the good ones. Yeah, but I mean, I think, let's be honest, it doesn't speak good for anybody. I mean, when you have to look at, when you need an example that specific, when you're sat there and go, right, I'm going to hate all Jews unless and to accept the ones who specifically do something like that I can, that affects me. And I mean, it's kind of a bit demanding, isn't it? It's a little bit silly, So Jews have got to spend their life. So every Jew has to spend their time saving your mum's life. Is that what it is? Interesting fact as well. The first young woman that Hitler was ever romantically had a romantic interest in was a 16-year-old Jewish girl. I'm seeing a pattern here. And here's an interesting one as well. I think there were 5 women throughout his life. 5 women who Hitler was romantically involved with, or thought to have been in a relationship with. They all tried to commit suicide. 4 of them succeeded. 2 of them, his wife Eva Braun, tried it twice. Right? Every single woman he was ever fucking. He's like James Bond, but like with depression, right? He's like the anti-James Bond. You too, mate. How are you doing? Honorary Aryan. You can't be an honorary. You can't. Who would want to be? In fact, you can't spell Aryan without honorary, without Aryan. So it's one of my favourite. One of my other favorites is like Joseph Mengele. I'm always fascinated by stories. Hitler had a girlfriend, and yet MGTOW still have a. Yes, but Hitler was. Yeah, it's a bit different. Oh, hold on here. First of all, Hitler, yes, he had girlfriends and wives, but they didn't go very well. One of them was his niece, by the way. But his wife, Eva Braun, she tried to kill herself twice. Do you know why? Because Hitler was so consumed and busy and focused on trying to rule the world that he neglected his wife in order to get attention. Attention. She tried to kill herself twice. Right? Twice. Just to get her husband to turn around and go, all right, that's it. I'm sure if these MGTOWs haven't got a problem with, they just given up. They're just, what I hate. Here's the thing about MGTOWs, right? In principle, right? In the basic sort of like, there's nothing. I think it's perfectly fine for people if they want to be single. They don't want to be involved in relationships. They don't mind something casual. They don't mind fuckboys or even using sex workers, or whatever. Right? That's fine. You don't want to have kids? No problem. What I resent about MGTOWs more than anything is the way they try and put this across as if it's some kind of alternative lifestyle choice that they have, one that they have chosen, and that they are now going to be, and that they are the victims of, you know, of being stigmatized and being frowned upon for that. I'm like, no, you've chosen to do this, mate. And if you're going to do it, be happy with it. There's nothing wrong with that. Right? But don't choose to do it. Don't call yourself men going our own way and then never fuck off. Right? It's like they're just going, right, okay, guys, I have chosen to become a MGTOW. As of today, I'm officially a man. I'm going my own way. Right? Me, man, I'm going my own way. So I'm off, right? I'm off. I'm going my own way. Right, I'll see you later. Right? Don't try and stop me. Okay. I'm just going now. Okay, you won't see me again. Just to be clear here, I'm going to be going that way. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to follow me. Because if anyone follows me, right, then I'm not going my own way anymore. It's fundamental to the principles, to the ideological and foundational principles of being a man going your own way. We've all got to be walking, you know, in a completely different direction. Right? So just so you know, I'm going. I tell you what, I've got an air tag. Right, I'll put this in. You can follow my coordinates, so you know. Whether or not, if you're ever fucking just, okay, you got that? Okay, good, right. See you later. Well, I won't see you later, but you know, take care. I've just realised that this live stream is on my channel, so I can't leave yet. So you're gonna have to all sort of go before I can end it. Because if I just end it and we're all here, then we're not going anywhere. And we're technically all going to be going the same way. And I can't let you leave first because you see what I mean, right? That's what it is. That's a MGTOW. That's my one-man performance of a MGTOW. If you make, you know, if you get a MGTOW and $1 billion, what do you get? 50 Shades of Grey. That's what you. I mean, she chose to be. Things I never have. People always sort of have this default sort of position where they feel sorry for the women or the girlfriends who are dating these men who are arseholes. I'm like, why? I mean, they're probably, one of the reasons they're probably going out with them is they're probably just as fucking abhorrent. They just chose not to fucking do it for a living, you know. I'm pretty sure, you know, I just don't. So yeah, I mean, I've got no sympathy for Eva, and Eva Braun then fucking, you know. She failed to kill herself twice just to get attention. If you can't get your husband's attention through trying to commit suicide twice, and then not only that, the worst part is you die. Why? You die through suicide because you have to, because your husband, who you've chosen to stay with, despite the fact that he has driven you to suicide, to commit suicide twice, you've now had to stay with him, and through that, you now have to take a cyanide pill because the fucking Allied powers are coming out in here, right, to win World War II for us, right? Under our orders. There's not enough misogyny. Yes, but that's because the reason there's not enough misogyny is because you're just taking it at face value. You're not taking into account all of the fucking subtext and other aspects of my performance, with which included, you know, the dead bodies that are buried underneath the caravan. Right, and the decomposing vaginas that are in jars in the fridge, and the fact that all of the beds, there's a chair and the bedding is made out of skins. Right, so come on, focus, you bastard. This fucking camera. Hold on, let me give it a wipe. That's better. See the misogyny. See my misogyny. If you expected me just to throw in. No, you're not going to do that, you know, because you can't do that every day, can you? You can't do that every conversation because they're not talking to women. So they're not talking to men either. I mean, I don't know what they're talking. They're probably talking to nobody, right? They're probably talking to fucking. They've just got like different things they've made out into different shapes of people. They turn on set. Each one of them's got a YouTube channel, and they put a camera on each and every one of them, and they sit there on a live stream, you know, with 4 fucking human-sized fucking, you know, dolls, and then they sit there and talk to themselves in front of an audience of no one. Why is this fucking thing just... There we go. Apparently, he doesn't like me moving too much. This camera's normally better quality. I must have sat in my bag for too long. What have we got going on here? Yeah, here's one of my things I love. Whenever I read, one of my favorite things about reading like autobiographical accounts of like particularly the main Nazis, but any kind of like psycho, like just nutter, fucking evil, fucking monster. Like, you know, when you read about Hitler, my favorite one is like all of their autobiographies, if they've been done well. My favorite is where you find out some weird little like fact about them that just makes them sound normal, because it just doesn't. It's more disturbing than anything else. Because the one thing I always remember first from I read 3 books about Joseph Mengele, right? And the first thing that pops into my head when I think about Joseph Mengele's book was the fact that apparently when he was at university, he was a really good dancer. Like that just fucking that was it to me. It was like just the idea of just Joseph Mengele being this snake tip fucking flamenco god, you know, or Patrick Swayze in fucking Dirty Dancing, or just maybe he'd be flossing nowadays, maybe, I don't know. But I just found that funny. I just sort of like it's kind of weird to imagine Joseph Mengele, the guy who literally was doing human centipedes before 80 years before the fucking idea was a film, you know, the guy who was doing things that was so fucking. Joseph Mengele's nickname, right, was the Angel of Death. That wasn't bestowed upon him by himself or after the fucking war. That's what the other Nazis called him. Do you know how insanely fucking mental? Do you know how just sadistic and beyond evil you have to be for every other Nazi to look at you and go, yeah, that man fucking, he's off the chain, my friend. He's taken it. He's changed the game. He's taken it. You know, he's the Angel of Death. Even Hitler wasn't the Angel of Death. He was just, you know, Adolf Hitler itself became a bit of a sort of name. It became a sort of, you know, self-perpetuating ad hominem. What style of dancing? I don't know. It's probably, to be honest, it was probably ballroom dancing. I'm gonna guess it probably wasn't anything. You know, he wasn't going to be fucking body popping and doing the robot and fucking and stuff like that. I don't know though, but yeah, they kept the name. Well, that's always the Well, he was one of the Nazis who got away and went to Argentina, and when he went to Argentina, he failed his driving test 4 times. I don't know anyone who's that fucking stupid, you know. And the one thing that I resent about with Joseph Mengele is the fact that people still insist on calling him doctor. Now, he was a doctor. But we got nothing. And they call the things he did to people experiments. They weren't experiments. But he did them under the guise of being a doctor, under the banner of being a doctor. They were not experiments. We gained no information of any value from anything Joseph Mengele did to any of the fucking people who he tortured, right? And the things we did, I mean, there were things that had never been done before, but we didn't need to have them done. One thing he did this in several different forms, is if a Jewish woman who was in the camp, one of the camps, or in Auschwitz, like if she was pregnant, one thing he would do, he'd bring her into the infirmary, chain her to the bed, right, where she couldn't move, and then she would give birth to a baby. He would then have her breasts cut off, so she couldn't feed the child. She would bleed out to death. The infant would starve. That's a Joseph Mengele experiment, right? On another occasion, where there's a Jewish woman who was pregnant, who was giving birth, she's in the infirmary, chained to the bed. He delivers the baby, takes the baby away from her immediately, puts it in this room where there's an observation window, and just leaves it there until it's dead. Because he wanted to know, I wonder how long a human being can live for after they're born with no fucking outside sort of influence, no sort of food or water, because he's a curious fellow, Joseph Mengele. And so, you know, he wanted to see what would happen. And not going to believe this, the baby dies not long after. That's what we learned from that. And I don't think we needed to gain anything from that. That's just my fucking, you know, take on it, you know. But yeah. So yeah, don't call him a doctor, you know. We've still got people, you know, we've had people like that going, you know, there's a geezer on YouTube doing that, who's kind of in that position, who uses the term doctor, and he's technically allowed to. He is technically a doctor, but he's using it in his videos to grant credibility that he is nowhere near qualified to make. Right? And yes, I'm talking about Dr. Todd Grande, right? Who is basically just Kent Hovind if he had a brain. Motherfucker's now got 1.4 million subscribers, right? How much you miss? You have missed 51 minutes, DJ. I thought you'd turn up because I was just ranting about Nazis, so I figured you might hear me. Right? The call would come out. I'm joking. Right? You saw the swastika sign in the sky, and you went, how you doing, my brother? Guys, has it been 50 minutes? Jesus Christ, I haven't shut up since I started. I'm bloody good at this, isn't I? See, this is why I'm still going. This is why 14 years. Right? So I'm still here running this motherfucker. Right? And I'm not even trying. I'm phoning this shit in. You know. History debunked. Yes, I have actually. Do you know what? Someone sent me an email. With a list of channels they thought I might be interested in. And one of them was History Debunked. Although I didn't need to go too far, because some of you might remember, back in, I think, 2014, when I sort of, over the course of a few months, I made several videos that were sort of making fun of a tiny little fringe political organisation called Justice for Men and Boys, parentheses, and the women who love them. And then I stopped after a while, because obviously it was a very small party. They weren't going anywhere. They were just like the sort of nutters du jour of the day. Well, interestingly, earlier this year, I discovered something interesting about Mike Buchanan. Right? Mike Buchanan, who was the leader of the Justice for Men and Boys Party, in that he has started a new party. He started it earlier this year. And it's quite funny because it is exactly the same. It is just Justice for Men and Boys and the women who love them, but he's repackaged it. It's now got a bit more of a broad term. He uses the term child and family party. It's got 20. It's a party based on 21 principles, all of which are the same as the 21 principles he followed in Justice for Men and Boys. He has just as many members as he did before. His voting, the number of votes he got in the last election that he ran in fucking wherever it was, fucking Cuntingshire or wherever it was, he got the same number of votes. Nothing has changed. He's doing the same thing, but one of the people, he's got this video on the channel, which was him launching the new party. And it basically was new coke for fucking, for people, for rapists, always was. And one of the people who he cites in this video is the guy from History Debunked. And I was like, well, there you go. There's fucking killing two birds with a stone there, I don't think his videos are disturbing. I mean, they're quite I mean, the thing I found most striking about them is how it's quite obviously just a bloke sat there saying stuff, making assertions, making very, very, making very clearly, carefully, picked and cherry-picked sort of causality arguments over things that he didn't, and then leaving it there. And it's kind of like, but it's quite obvious that in that way. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and that's what I find interesting is about it's like, this is the guy he's making no effort to fucking actually present himself as a historian or even just a guy who has an interest in it. He's just, and he doesn't link anything. He doesn't cite any sources. He can't cite any sources. Right? His channel's called History Debunked. By its very nature, this is a channel that's going to challenge it. But you can't just do that. It's all well and good to challenge something that is considered to be a sort of established, sort of idea or part of a status quo or mainstream thought, but you've still got to present something that fucking proves that. You know what I mean? You can't just sort of say it and then walk away. That goes back to that conspiracy theorist conversation I had on a forum where I sort of asked him for evidence or proof of the Illuminati or the NWO, and his response was, well, look, if the NWO and the Illuminati exist and they're real and the conspiracy is true, there won't be any evidence. Now, technically, he's not wrong. That's actually true. Right? There will be no evidence, but it's also kind of convenient. Do you know what I mean? It's a fucking convenient fucking position because it means he now can just say anything because it's proof, and it shows that the actual sort of the essence of what he believes is not based on any kind of, it's not based on anything, you know, that's factual or substantive or measurable. It's based on a fear. It's it goes back to that old Christian principle of, you know, what if you're wrong? You know, isn't it best to believe, you know, Pascal's wager, isn't it best to believe in God? Because if you do, then, you know, what have you got to lose, right? It's, you know, it's like the idea of, like, you know, not believing in and what that could potentially mean is just, you know, brilliant. Anyway, I'm out of breath. Jesus. Oh, ow. Yeah, I've got, as you can see, just folks, you can see, despite the fact it's being winter, I've got the shorts of hope, the pale legs of experience. Ow. Neil Old. I mean, I don't follow historians, so I couldn't really talk too much about that. Ah, it's nice. Ah, deep freeze. DJ, calm down. We're all friends in here. Right? You can have this discussion, but I'm just telling you, right? Let's not fucking. It's the first live stream back. And I swear, if this gets out of it, I will turn this fucking car home. And no one's going to fucking dick. No one's going to Disneyland, okay? Look, to be fair, John, starting to work for GB News does not make you factually wrong on anything. It just means you might have just got an offer, you know. I'd work for it. If GB News contacted me and offered me a show, I'd be like, yeah, all right, you know, it's going to be shit. I mean, but if you're willing to pay me, then fuck it, why not, you know? I mean, Darren Grimes works for GB News, right? I mean, there are fucking pot plants that I would fucking take that have more credibility, that have, you know, more value in fucking, you know, than that guy, you know. Yeah. I mean, there are loads of circumstances under which I would, you know, if the NWO existed, I mean, my theory is if they existed and I sort of found out, I would immediately sort of be like, look, you know, I can't do anything. I've got no power or control. My name's not even, I could change my name to fucking Goldberg if you want. But, you know, surely the NWO must have like health and safety or cleaners or a catering department, you know, or someone, they must just have general dogs bodies who are doing basic fucking, I could work for them under that. I would do that, you know, I would do that because, you know, it's like, to me, it makes more sense, you know. If the NWO existed, then I'm going to be on their side. And I'm basing that purely on what I've seen from the people who oppose them. But I'm not going to be on I don't want to be on their fucking team. They ain't going to stand a chance, you know. You used to mark on. Yeah, a lot of people did. I mean, all fair. I mean, I don't mind. Listen, people working for different papers, even papers that are awful. I'm not against that in principle, because, you know, Frankie Boyle having a thing, or anybody having being involved in. You know, there's a lot of journalists or people who I like who have at some point had to work for a newspaper or, you know, whatever. James O'Brien, people forget, James O'Brien, 20 years ago, was the showbiz fucking columnist and was a showbiz writer for the Daily Express. Can you think of a job at a place that is you would less associate with it? Keith Olbermann used to. There's lots of people who go to these places just because it's a place to get a job. And I would rather them do it, you know, as long as they're doing what they're doing there is, you know, they're not fucking they're not going to be like Katie Hopkins, who's just saying that's just spouting that party line, or that's saying the things she's got to say, because she'll say anything for money, or Dave Rubin, who's just saying anything for money. You know, the problem becomes when people are saying things. You know, Katie Hopkins used the Sun as a way of advocating sort of like mass shootings by our military of people who were fucking immigrants. You know what I mean? When was the last time you read a real actual newspaper? Well, to be honest, every time I go to London, I end up reading one, because because in London they've got three newspapers. They've got the Metro, so you can find out what happened in London the night before. They've got London Lights, so you can find out what happened in London in the morning, and then they've got the London Evening Standard, which so you can find out what happened in the afternoon. You know, and they just sort of tend to be there. Plus, the other thing about those newspapers is they're very convenient for you. Where those free newspapers, because there's always one lying around, they're always very handy whenever one of the many sort of just nutters who populate and live on the London Underground get on the train and start making everything a bit awkward. You know, the geezer who comes on with a dead cat under his arm, right, and a fucking giant fucking cowboy hat, fucking, you know, he's wearing nothing, just wearing sock suspenders, right, and a fucking garter belt, and then singing, going, hello! And you're just standing there, and you just pick up the paper and pretend to read it. I reckon, actually, those people are actors who are hired by the Metro newspaper just to make people start reading it. I'm sure that's probably happened, you know, when you've had the terrorist attacks in London, right? As soon as those geezers got up and started shouting all that Islamic stuff and fucking showed the bomb, everyone just picked the paper up and went, I reckon all the bodies, go and find, I will guarantee you, every body that was found on 7th of July was found in that position with a fucking newspaper. And as the flames fucking came up, they go, no, don't pay him any attention. He'll just encourage him. That goes back. It's like Billy Connolly used to do that bit about the loonies who get on the bus at night. They come on and go, Joe, hello there, sir. Do you want a sweetie? And you go, no, thank you. Take a fucking sweetie. Okay. I'll eat it. Eat it now. No, I'll eat it later. Eat it now. Eat it fucking now. Okay. Okay, that's been up my bum. You know, that's... But it's true, you know. I know this, so I've always got to pack it up. What is wrong with this fucking... Come on, focus. Focus. Let me wipe this. Or maybe it's the light. Maybe if I put a bit more... Nope. A little bit more light, maybe. No, it still looks like an 80s porno. It's a little bit better. Oh, there we go. It's all nice now. It's a nice bit of fucking, you know, real plastic, you know. Don't fuck with me on this one. This is actual. This is from actual genuine bus seats, you know. What is this shit made of? You couldn't fuck. It's a good job there's no fucking metal in here. I would fucking go up in flames with. Just there's no animal that fucking feels like this, you know. It's all quantity. No, well, yeah, I mean, but this is, you know, since before, I've been saying this about trolls. You know, I've been saying this about trolls for fucking nearly a decade now. You know, now, you know, trolls just, people don't even try. Remember Zalmir? Do you remember Zalmir? Right? Do you remember the effort that was put in to fucking Zalmir 1000? Over the amount of effort that was put in over a period of years, writing messages and PMs to me, right, that were like fucking doctoral dissertations, right? It just went on for, and it was. I made an entire video every time he sent me a message because everybody knew it. And and Zalmir made famous one phrase. He had his catchphrase, which was "the electrons are starting." And what did Donald Trump tweet out, a couple of weeks ago? Right? The electrons are rigged. the electrons are over. And I'm like, he's fucking Zalmir. Right? There he was, again, Dick Coughlan's channel, 10 years ahead of the fucking curve. If you want a better demonstration of where we fucking, of the decline we've taken, right? The president, the former president, is tweeting stuff that a geezer pretending to be a mentally subnormal fucking handicapped racist troll 10 years ago is fucking, that's where we've got, Zalmir could probably have been the fucking, got in there like, he could have been, not vice president, but he'd definitely have a fucking, he could be Speaker of the House. Remember, imagine Zalmir, Speaker of the House. God, you'd be glued to the fucking the TV channel. I would vote for him to fucking go in. I'd vote Republican just to get Zalmir in as Speaker of the House. But yeah. Oh, God, an hour. So one of the things, anyway, I'll tell you this now because there's, I don't know how busy we're going to be. One thing I'm going to be doing a bit differently. I'm going to be trying to, and this is, I know that I will concede this. I do not have a great track record when it comes to me making plans and saying I'm going to do stuff on my YouTube channel, and then anything that I've just described happening. Right? There's no correlation. There has never been any fucking direct link. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but I've got a terrible, that's on me, right? I'm trying desperately to fucking change that. One thing I'm going to do is, from after this one, I don't know how often this is going to happen. It might be twice a month, but my live streams, I'm now going to be having, my live streams are now going to have a sort of a theme, if you will. There's going to be there's going to be a sort of a established sort of a pattern they're going to follow. And from now on, my live streams, each one is going to be called Dick's Live Deep Dive. And on each live stream, I will do a live deep dive on, it could be a person, certainly in the first few, in a lot of them, they're going to be people who you would expect me to have, or I've covered before. It could be a YouTube channel. It could be anything. Right? I'm willing to I'm open to requests. But the first one, I'm going to give you an idea. The first live deep dive, the first episode of Dick's Live Deep Dive that I do after this, don't know when that's going to be, is going to be on Mel Gibson. Now, to give you an idea of what I mean when I say deep dive, right, I will be sitting here on his live stream playing, right, from start to finish, and live reacting the entire audiobook, The Woman Who Fooled the World, which is the book about Mel Gibson, and that comes in at a just brisk 10.5 hours, which I'm sure, when you consider how much fucking video I can get on YouTube out of a 2-minute fucking video reply, I could be here a while, right? Don't make any fucking plans, right? But there's lots of, I've already got like a long list of ideas I'm doing, but that's one example, right? So each one I'll do will be a different, they're not all going to be funny, and they're not all going to necessarily be people who I've dealt with before, people who I've mentioned, but they're going to be, it's going to be something where there's a lot of content, there's a lot of meaty content, and I could sit there for 18 hours and fucking until I pass out or my audience dies or whatever, Tim Roth in Pulp Fiction. When I had my blonde hair, one of my favorite celebrity comparisons was a period when I had like a sort of blonde moppy mohawk, and someone said to me that I reminded them of Tim Roth if he was a Russian porn star, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, another one I've got. Let's have a look here. Hold on. So, for example, here's some of the other deep dive. Here's some of the other deep dive subjects. We've got the Mel Gibson audiobook, the Joseph Fritzl audiobook, a deep dive into Dan Nyman, who is an Indian Japanese stand-up comedian in America who is fucking awful, and but he's also bonkers mental, right? There's a lot of content there. I thought it would be good to go back on certain YouTube channels that have got a lot of content and go sort of start at the oldest videos. So Pat Condell and Paul Joseph, right? I want to wipe the Jews off the face of the earth, Watson. I thought we could try and do a live stream where I listen to every single audio call between James O'Brien and Brexit and a Brexiteer that I can find. It's about 23 hours. We got it. Sarah Boone, right? Who is like, if you're into like the police interrogation videos and you want an absolute corker, right? Look up Sarah Boone, right? It's 2 hours and it's fucking incredible. It is fucking proper. It is, standard, gold standard. It's top of the line. I want to do the Zoo Sadists again, but in one go. I've got one. Nicholas Van Hoogstraten. Want to cover him? Yeah. Nick Fuentes. No, Nick Fuentes is not popular at the moment. Do you know Nick Fuentes was another one who popped up in my radar, right? Because, and the reason, see, do you remember a couple of months ago? I don't know if you remember this. There wasn't a hell of a lot. I think a couple of people talked about it. I remember seeing it on Majority Report, and I think Vaush mentioned it. But this video got uploaded about Jesse Lee Peterson, about the black, the old black geezer who's like the beta males, right? And it was called Amazing Disgrace. And it was a 30-minute documentary, about Jesse Lee Peterson, in which he is exposed as a kind of as a homosexual predator, they said of young men, but that's sort of disputable. But anyway, it's a 30-minute, and I watched it, right? And what I found interesting was about that. It didn't really click right away, but I could see there was a real strong religious overtone to everything. And they seem to be more focused on the fucking homosexual bit than the predator bit, which is kind of weird. So I looked into the people who had made this documentary. Do you know who'd made that documentary? Right? Do you remember Mike Voritz? Right, Real Catholic Toupee. Do you remember him? Right, used to be Real Catholic TV, then became Church Militant. His company made it. Right, his company made that fucking documentary. One of the people who helped make that documentary, because they've been working with him for a few years and his organization, is Milo Yiannopoulos. And one of the other people involved, right, involved with it, because he'd been connected to Jesse Lee Peterson and he had kind of thrown him under the bus, is Nick Fuentes. So what we have here is Mike Voritz, a gay man who is being cured, in association with Milo Yiannopoulos, the gayest man ever, who had been recured again. And Nick Fuentes, a guy who's so gay, he thinks that fucking women is for puffs, exposing another guy for being a gay man. It's the gayest fucking thing. I've never seen a drama with just nothing but like a load of queers exposing each other for being, and I was just pissing. It was just a rabbit hole I was going down. I thought, well, how far is this going to go? The only person involved in this little fucking sort of connected universe who wasn't gay, or at least I couldn't find any reason to believe he was, is Baked Alaska. And let's be honest, Baked Alaska's, he's more just barely a person. He's just like, it's not the case. It's not the fact that he's not gay or straight. He's just devoid of any charisma. Yeah, but Milo, he seems to have been like, if you want to talk about people getting a career renaissance, fucking Milo a couple of weeks ago, Tim Pool, for reasons I don't know why, I don't know how many people had to cancel for him to have to, but he had Milo was on his show for 3 hours, and that's a little bit, and unfortunately, because Tim Pool, as a result of Tim Pool being, basically just being this mentally handicapped Penfold from fucking Danger Mouse, Milo was actually, on a lot of it, he was very, very sort of thoughtful and reasonable and fucking, I'm like, And he's probably going to be doing that just to annoy people as he gets his because he's a very bitchy, vindictive man. But I just found it interesting that like Tim Paul, who bangs on and on about, who's one of the people banging on and on about predators and stuff like that, and you know, and in the gay community, I'm like, you've got Milo on your podcast, mate. Can you please remind me, why did he suddenly vanish? What did he do? Could you talk to him about that? Because I would have thought a guy who fucking seems to care so much about predators in the gay community as you do, the idea that you could sit next to Milo for 3 hours and not mention anything, I find that a little bit suspicious. Yeah? Either you don't know, and you should, and if you don't, then you're not a fucking very good journalist, right? Or you don't, or you do know, and you're not saying it, which means again you're just Tim Paul, you know. You're just what's the word I'm looking for? A cunt, you know. Milo could be. Do you know what? Wouldn't have a problem with that. Not many people Milo can stand next to and look like the slightly more sane, reasonable one. Milo wouldn't want that. Yeah, the thing about Milo is Milo doesn't want to actually work, right? He doesn't want to have a job where he has to work very hard. He wants to just coast through life as easily as possible. So him being, he doesn't want to. He wouldn't want to be vice president, or actually, he also wouldn't want to be in a position of power or anything like that, where he would actually have to be held accountable. He's much happier, as I am. I'm standing on the sidelines shouting. I would rather be. I don't want to be like the professional footballer who's one of the best, working his arse off, one of the best athletes in the world, top of his game. No, I want to be the fucking geezer in the fucking stand, drinking an £8 can of cheap lager and eating a meat pie the size of a citadel, resting on his 19th belly. And every now and again, I will fucking scream loads of abuse at the best athletes in the world and then tell them what they should have done, because obviously I know. That guy is happier than the one on the pitch, The opening ceremony. I just know that would be quite funny. The opening ceremony, that would be, if they ever have the Olympics, if the Olympics ever go through Qatar, we'll just, when the torch goes through, we'll just set Milo on fire and everyone can chase him. I'd be up for that. That would be fun, right? Therefore, we can, everyone's a winner then, didn't we? We don't have, there's no this cover. Let's go. Okay, Qatar, you want to be, you want to have, incredibly archaic and fucking backwards fucking attitudes to homosexuals. Fine. We're only going to send the homosexuals whose personalities and life and whose fucking politics are so fucking toxic that, quite frankly, no one's going to object to setting them on fire. That'll be fine. It's the Deadpool principle of, when you've got a bad guy, the best thing to do is find a worse one. Then you're going to put your differences aside, Let's be honest. I mean, a couple of years, if after, when Surviving R. Kelly, the documentary series was released, let's say, what should have happened? The nearest chapter of the KKK should have fucking got together outside R. Kelly's house with a burning cross and brought the bastard out and lynched him live. And it's the one guy, right? You will get away with it. No one will complain, lads. Right? You can now work, and now you're working for us, right? You're getting what you want. We're getting what we want. Everyone's a winner. Right? Anyway, that's a good hot take there. You can clip that. Dick Coughlan advocated the KKK lynching a black R&B singer on the basis that, yeah, but Seagal's not in a position of power, mate. I mean, he's in a position of influence, yes, but he's not in a position of power. We all saw how it went. I don't need to explain to you how, what people thought about the idea of Seagal being in power. We have a real world example of what happened, which is, losing every single possible seat that UKIP had and replacing it with nothing. Right? Sargon lost more seats for UKIP than a fucking deaf kid playing musical chairs. Yeah. And it weren't entirely his fault, but when you have been in the newspapers across the board, everything from the Independent and the Observer all the way to the fucking Express and the Mail, right? And all of them, and every single one is you bashing the Jews, bashing women, making jokes talking about saying the N-word and how you like it and it's funny, and how Jews should shut up about the Holocaust. And talking about circumstances under which fucking kids would be perfectly acceptable. When this is every day, you tell me, this is every day. Right? Yes, of course. That's what happens when you put him. Ben Shapiro versus Andrew Neil. That's what happens when these fuckers step out of their bubble into the world where they sit there and they spend their time mocking mainstream media and journalists, and then they encounter one and they fucking have deluded themselves into thinking that actually I'm really good. No, you fucking ambush people who don't know anything. You ambush kids or young people who have got no stake in the game and no fucking reason. That's what you do. Well, that's fine. But then don't convince yourself that this means you can handle real journalism, because that's not what's going to happen. And we all saw what happened. Ben Shapiro got fucking. You might as well. That was a 30-minute interview. That was like the asexual version of Serbian film. Right? That's what it was. If Andrew Neil got in any harder, he'd have been arrested by the ADL. Oh, mate. Oh, God. I thought it was going to be a really good fart then. It was one of those, like, when you throw a dart. Like, you're the king of YouTube. Okay. Dude, I think all men are I think we're all kings. Right? I think we all can be kings. Right? And I support you in that. Right? I wouldn't tell you otherwise. I have no... my claim is as much as valid as yours. Right? I just want to say this as well. 2 weeks ago, right? This is again me, embittered and fucking making claims that are, making claims of being a fucking ahead of the game in ways that I have no fucking right to. 2 weeks ago, I put a post on Facebook. I think it was on Twitter, and it was actually quite popular and shared a lot, like exposing and sort of talking about how this company that has sponsored almost every big YouTuber, called Established Titles, is basically. It's basically a con. Like, it's a scam, right? It's not the worst scam out there. I think it's not as outrageous as some others, but it's basically a scam. And now, since then, I have seen 5 YouTubers who have got big audiences doing videos about Established Titles. Now, I'm sure now you might sit there and go, but Rich, there are other people who have mentioned this, surely, and there probably have been. In fact, I know there have been, but I'm choosing to fucking ignore that and brush that to one side because I didn't know they'd done that. And because I didn't know, that means they don't count, right? So there you go, again. Hi, Tommy. Yeah. Is there any other sort? Mean Street MMA, would you like have another? Is there a sort of Sesame Street AMA or like a sort of Equality Street MMA? Seems like they'd have to be slightly mean, yeah. Thank you. Napoleon's great. Napoleon he's got some of the most original and funny and well put. I like he's passionate. He cares. He's got fucking his use of language is something I fully appreciate. And also it's the fact that that I wasn't even into. I knew about AMA and UFC, but. Like I've got sort of. I now follow. I don't even watch it. I just follow it I follow it through documentaries about about these guys destroying themselves, basically. But yeah, when you get a Napoleon blown apart video, I say he's the only person whose Patreon I support. $1, thank you. If you actually watch his last couple of videos. And at the end, he puts all of executive producers, and you'll see my name in there. Yeah, right. So I'm going to put as seen on Napoleon Blown Apart channel. That will mean nothing to anyone, probably. Oh, Stephen, if you want some Steven Seagal, if you want some really funny content involves bashing Steven Seagal. Right? You need to. There's a channel called Space Ice, and he basically his whole channel he does like movie reviews, but he's not taking them he's not taking them seriously. He chooses to do most of the films he does are sort of like these 80s and 90s action movies, and his videos are centered around either making fun of Steven Seagal, basically worshipping Jean-Claude Van Damme, or sometimes doing both in one video, and other people bashing Uwe Boll, and he does all of his videos. All of his videos, he talks in this really exaggerated voice where he overpronounces every word. He's like, The End of a Gun was the Steven Seagal movie where he finally showed the world that he is the baddest man on the planet. Just kidding, he's fat and it's really fucking stupid. And at first you think it might get a bit grating, this, but honestly, you binge watch all of it. And he does these videos where he does comparisons between Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal and who's better. And like Van Damme always wins by like 1,000,000 points. Yeah, I mean, there's loads of anti-Steven Seagal content. It's not difficult, but because there's so much of it, it means it's difficult to do any now, and for it to be original and entertaining, and not just sort of go over the same shit you already know. Yeah, but I'm not going to be. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be watching any of it. But again, Steven Seagal, head of his time, right? I mean, if he was 30 years ago, there'd have been a YouTube. So he could have been one of these. He could have been one of these very successful fake martial artists. He kind of was, wasn't he? I mean, in a way, except he didn't do it in a way that was as utterly devoid of any scruples or ethics as like no touch knockouts or any of those cunts. But you've been to see Steven Seagal in concert. Oh, but listen, mate, I would go see Steven Seagal in concert. That's one of my favourite Napoleon Blown Apart videos, is when he opens it by saying, "Did you know that Steven Seagal in the 80s released a Jamaican dance house track called Strut, that involves him singing, a 70-year-old overweight Steven Seagal singing the line, 'Me want the punani.' And you didn't know that? Well, and now he puts it in every video." And I'm just like, it's so fucking... See, that's the part of Steven Seagal that this is the problem with him, is that he's so fucking awful, and he's such a disgusting human being in so many ways that you just can't defend or ignore. And I hate that, because there's bits like that, like I just think they're so fucking stupid. I want to like him, like the Rob Schneider story, of where he like, he's on the bus. He's on a bus of a movie set, and Steven Seagal walks out and goes, "I just read the greatest script I've ever read in my life." "Really? Who wrote it?" "I did." And I'm like, I want to love that guy so much, but I can't, because he's probably raped more people than Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby and Genghis Khan combined. Oh, the stunt stuff it gets so much beyond that. If you watch Space Ice videos, he shows you that in a lot of his newer films, there are fight scenes that are edited together, and on at least half a dozen occasions. I'm not joking. This is how much you see Steven Seagal. He does this, right? And they'll take that clip and they'll repeat it. Then they'll reverse it and flip it. Then they'll play it forwards and backwards, and they'll just have the other guys running and jumping around him. And that's all. It's a 2-second movement. He can't be bothered to do any more than that. And sometimes he gets his stunt double to do that. And I don't think it's fair to call it a stunt double. He's more like a stunt third. A stunt double should be similar in appearance and build and body mass as the geezer he's playing. But that's clearly not going to be possible, right? So there you go. Whew. Just sub to Space Ice. There you go. See? Oh, I've got some other. I've also gone back onto Scribed, because if you may remember, a few years ago, I tried and didn't really fail, but it just never. I wanted to sort of. Me and my friend Danny did this sort of like podcast where we were reading, these homemade, these independently written homemade sexual sex and dating advice manuals on Scribe. And I found a load of new ones the other day so I'm going to add them to the list of other stuff. I also, what I want to do in terms of like video content, I want to try and sort of say every month I want to try and do at least one sort of like video that's a Neuro news video, and another, at least maybe one or two that is basically an old school response. This is content I can pump out a lot quicker, along with like the live streams and the other ones which don't really require much preparation. And in between that, I will be making it like a video that's going to be a much more elaborate one that might be like any 4 to 8 weeks. So that's the plan. Obviously, don't bet your house on it. Right? Things can change, but that's the sort of stated goal as it goes. And I've got stuff ready to go. It's just a case of fucking getting it out there when it's ready. Some of it even is ready, but I can't upload it all at once. But remember when Steven Seagal played an Inuit? Yeah, but Steven Seagal was played an Asian man. He's done a white guy with black voice. He's pretended to be Russian. He's pretended to be Jewish. He's pretended to be Native American. You can imagine him being an Eskimo. Like, which igloo was his. Fucking, you just see that he couldn't walk out on the fucking. He couldn't walk out on the ice. Really, there's nothing thick enough. There's a story of he broke Sean Connery's wrist. Although I'm going to assume the reason he broke Sean Connery's wrist is because Steven Seagal didn't know who Sean Connery was. Because why would Steven Seagal have the understanding that any other human being exists? And because of Sean Connery's very famous speech impediment, Seagal probably thought that Connery was mocking him the whole time. And, Steven Seagal, yes, please, Steven, shit. Come over here. Take a shit next to me. Shit down here. Just take a shit over here. Stephen, can I just say you're a shite for sore eyes? So, that's my theory. And it's as good as any. It at least gives him an excuse. There's a massive hole in the ice. Well, there's just no ice anymore. It's like, where's it got? I think just like you see the iceberg. He could have maybe that's what the Titanic hit. That should be the movie. We need the Asylum film production, Neil Breen's direction, and Steven Seagal plays the iceberg. Right? And that's the fucking. That would stop Sean from slapping his wife. No, probably not. It'd probably just make him even angrier, and he'll go and get a fucking, he'll go get a baseball bat or a cricket bat or something. He'll just fucking do something, Just give it a fucking, maybe it would break his bones. It gives his hand a little bit more flex. He can get more fucking whipping on it, I don't think Seagal would, but I think Steven Seagal said, sorry, Sean, I'll beat your wife up for you. Yeah, he did, yes. You just see the iceberg flip. That'd be great. You just see him take the ship down. That's another community I got I discovered about a year ago was the Titanic historian community, which is fascinating because you just don't realize that there are conspiracy theories. There are basically what the equivalent of 9/11 truthers, but for the Titanic. One of their favorite ones, the Titanic conspiracy theorists, is the idea that the boat didn't snap in two. It never broke. It just sank. Right? And the thing is, I just don't get why is this a conspiracy? I mean, the boat sinking. Right? I can't think of any circumstances. If I'm booked on a cruise and the end result of that cruise is at some point the boat ended up at the bottom of the ocean, right? Anything that happened between then, in terms of was it in two pieces? Did it sink quick? It doesn't matter. It's the end result is the same. What's the benefit of that? Of course, the reason that came about was because the people who made the Titanic didn't want people to know that the boat snapped in half. They wanted people to think that the boat stayed in one piece because they felt that made it look. They felt that it made it look bad if they told everyone it snapped in half, right? I'm like, dude, it fucking sank, mate. It sank in the. It still doesn't matter what happened. It could have dissolved on contact with air for all it matters. It's still there. You ain't getting. There's no positive spin on this, right? You are Ja Rule, and this is the Fire Festival, and there are no smart fucking people in this call who are going to get you out of this. The Jews, no. Well, maybe. I mean, they all sort of come, probably, but there's a question. There's something. I've got a theory. If you've seen the Fire Festival documentary, which you should have done, because it's one of the best documentaries ever. I've watched it about 20 times, and I have two theories regarding what happened. And that first one, I am convinced that fucking Ja Rule was the mole, right? Because they talked about people were leaking stuff to all these other people and getting it out there, and no one knew who it was, and it was only a select group of people up at the top who could have possibly known, right? I'm convinced it was Ja Rule. Here's why. After the Fire Festival went mad, Billy McFarlane goes down, right? What happened to Ja Rule? No one cared. You'll notice that before, Ja Rule is everywhere. In fact, every fucking scene, right, there's some person narrating in the Fire Festival uses the line, and Ja Rule was there, right? It's like in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form, and Ja Rule was there, right? And then suddenly, right, the week before the festival starts, Ja Rule couldn't fucking nowhere to be seen. Right? So I'm convinced he was leaking shit so he could get out of the trouble that he knew was coming, right? Hold it on everyone else and come off, without any damage done, because it just makes sense to me. Also, I personally think I've had, because now we don't just have documentaries and docuseries, we get second seasons and sequels, right? If I was Billy McFarlane, right, you think about it, you think of the hype that was behind Fire Festival. I mean, there were 2 documentaries made by 2 different streaming companies at the same time, like Hulu and Netflix. I've never watched the Hulu one, but I think when Billy McFarlane gets out, because he won't be allowed to actually get involved, I'm sure he's been banned from doing certain things, but Billy McFarlane is that type of guy who is never going to stop scamming. He's never, ever going to stop trying to find a way to rip people out of it, off of their money. He's always going to do it. Here's what he should do. He should try and set about doing the Fire Festival, but properly this time. Right? He contacts Netflix or whoever and says, "Do you want the exclusive documentary rights? It's going to be me, my redemption arc, me attempting to actually do Fire Festival properly, and with a little help and creative license, he pulls it off." And there we go. And you've got a ready-made. Who's not going to watch that? Everyone who watched the first film is going to fucking watch the second one. Right? It'll go everywhere. You'll make a fortune. But again, that's just me being clever. Have I seen Devil Next Door? I have. It was fine. It was good. It didn't, it didn't reach out and, I was waiting for it to fucking just, shove its hand down the front of my trousers and have a good old rummage. And but it wasn't bad. Yeah, but it's just so, I mean, the documentary sort of like, and I think YouTube is a reason for this, because documentary style content, or content that is basically documentary in its nature, is one of the most popular on YouTube. Because that's what people focus on. And I think when you look at the quality, when you look at some of the channels and the quality, how good the fucking documentaries they make are, and they're making YouTube videos. I mean, they're making YouTube videos about the silliest shit, the most irrelevant, weird. I have watched 4-hour-long documentaries about some geezer who's part of some fucking community on the internet who I've never heard of and haven't heard of again since, and I'm glued to it, right? And I think, and things like that, I think, and that's why when you now get things like, you get documentaries like Don't Fuck With Cats, which is effectively, that's a fucking, you can imagine that being the subject for I think it already has been on YouTube, several YouTube channels. And the same people who made Don't Fuck with Cats recently released another documentary, 3-parter, which you should watch, called The Most Hated Man on the Internet. And I thought, well, that narrows it down to about 3 billion possible people. But that's a really good one. But yeah, so these days, the fucking Abducted in Plain Sight. What's the other geezer? The people who made that also did another one recently called The Girl in the Picture. Right? Without a doubt, I mean, obviously, the best documentary of all time ever is Tickled. I've said this already. If you haven't seen Tickled, right, you need to watch it. It is just, I can't. It's one of those films as well that, before you watch it, don't go and watch a trailer. Don't read anything about it. Don't look at the content. Just get the film and fucking watch it. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. It is a fucking incredible film. And you have Tickled. I've got it on my I think I've got an app on that, but the guy who does that, I forget him. What's his name? Dave something or other. The gay New Zealand geezer. He's got that guy has that guy could be this generation's Louis Theroux. He's got that same sort of like, he's got that same personality and that sort of like, he's really good at sort of coming across as very, very, he puts people at ease, almost too much. He sort of like has a certain like way of like getting people to sort of open up to him. Through his own sort of, he comes across as a bit naive almost. He also got glasses and he's quite tall. Most Hated Man is great. Do you know what's amazing about Most Hated Man is that people found a Twitter account after Most Hated Man came out of what's his name, Hunter Moore, and it's just like, and it's so funny to watch because there's no reason to believe it's not him because it's been around for a while and it's got like 20,000 subs and it's just him. Like doing, like he does, like he's at the gym doing some like lifting and stuff, and that's it. And I'm not joking. Like the reason he got found on this was when the documentary came out, he was like retweeting it. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Do you think you're gonna fucking? Do you think this is gonna resurrect anything for you? If anything, this has just made you more hated. At least in the documentary, you somehow had a massive audience of people who liked you. Now they all hate you. And all the other people who fucking hated you are now greater in number. I mean, you were this big fucking, you were this big muscly tattoo, chain smoking, partying fucking badass, who went around, who just like didn't give a fuck about anything. And you got fucking, you got your ass handed to you by a fucking late middle-aged fucking housewife who, out of boredom, nothing else. It's amazing to watch. Do you know, Crud? Do you want something? Do you want a fact about Amazon Prime? There is a 6-part. There's a 6-part TV series on there, just a small mini series called Drowning in Sunshine, and it stars, right, as one of its more minor but still relevant characters, a young man by the name of Dick Coughlin. So look that up if you will. If you watch it enough times, I might get a penny. A Venezuelan penny, but one nonetheless. Victorian, I tell you what, this is something another thing I've learned by accident. Any fucking thing. Anything about Victorians, anything that's about any documentary or video or anything that talks about Victorian life is fucking insane, right? It's amazing. You just you have no idea until you actually just go and learn about it. Like we always have this idea of Victorian Britain of like this sort of romanticized, sort of idealistic idea. It was fucking insane in every possible way. Like it was just a bonkers mental fucking time. Like wallpaper. Wallpaper was a fucking luxury. Right? Very few people had wallpaper. Unfortunately, the paper that it was made from was basically, it was basically like that fucking magnesium ribbon. And the paint that was on the wallpaper that gave it a pattern was basically like napalm. And the wallpaper paste, they put it on the wall, up against the walls, not only fucking made it airtight, but it also was like basically mixing together some sort of ammonium nitrate. And then you put that in conjunction with the amount of overheating and all of the gas bottles that were there creating flames and light. And what you essentially had was just a fucking stick of dynamite for a house. It's like, it's just, everything is mad. I mean, this was like, you know, there's no greater job. You know, I would love to go back to Victorian time Britain because I could become a doctor. That's it. They just made it up back then. There's no such thing as medicine or science. They were like, just, you know, some guy's got a headache, they get a corkscrew out going, it's okay, sir, there's a demon in your brain. I'm just going to drill a hole in the top of your head. Don't worry. You think with your lungs. It's a well-known established fact. You know. Anyway. Right. You know what, folks? I'm gonna call it a day. I just wanted to do a live stream to sort of like get the sort of content creating hump out of the way. Now I can go back to what I was doing before. Follow me on Patreon, please. I need to build that back up. It's been my fault. It has gone down a lot in 18 months. My fault, not yours. Right? Partially yours, not mine, but mine as well. Right? But mostly yours. Right? But I will be, you know, we will be moving forward, forthwith, henceforth, and fifth, and East 54455. And other than that, thanks for coming here, and I will see you all later. Probably. Do me a favor. You know, in the meantime, try not to kill anyone. Right? Reflects very badly on me. You know? And I don't need any of that. Right? So, it has been emotional, probably. But mostly, do you know what it's mostly been?